I've been in the investment business most of my life. I'm a CFP, a CHFC, and a CLU. But I learned something every day, and something that was hammered home to me just this week is know what you're buying and know who you're buying. Know the CEO of the company so that you can kind of see what kind of decisions they make and what kind of person they are, and if this is a person that you trust your money with. Now, if you were buying a business in your own community, you'd go down and you'd meet with the owner, wouldn't you? You'd look at his books, you'd understand what is driving him and what the company is all about and where they fit into the normal economy. Well, that's exactly what you need to do when you're buying a stock. But we don't do it. We basically take the word of somebody else that this is a good stock and you should invest in it. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can find out who are you investing in. Is that someone you'd even want to have dinner with? If you wouldn't, why would you want to give them your money?
Best of Us Investors presents Carrie Griegmeyer.
Let's assume that you had an opportunity to invest in a manufacturing company or a software company or a tech company in your community. It was a startup and you knew somebody and you were invited to become one of the original investors. What would you do? Would you go to a meeting and possibly meet the officers of the company and then maybe if it was a manufacturing facility, go out into the facility and see what they were doing and what they were making and then ask them questions about the industry that they were involved in? Would you ask to see their books if they've been in a business for a time as to who their customers were and what kind of relationships they had with their customers and how big was their sales team and how much you could learn? Would you try to learn everything that you could if you were giving them some of your money to invest in their business so that you could participate in the future? That's what I do. And what I realized just this week, as I said, I've been in this business I'm 78 years old next month, and I've been in it for most of my life. And so I invest. I do some things that I take for granted. I subscribe to Seeking Alpha. So when I look at a company, I can go to Seeking Alpha and I can get access to their books and I can see what their history was. And then I can read about what other people say about them. But something happened this week I want to share with you. I owned $20,000 worth of Palantir stock. Palantir is a software company. They were made famous. They got their start. They worked for the CIA for years, and then about 2 years ago, they were instrumental in finding Saddam bin Laden. What they did was they had a software program that analyzed emails and texts and phone calls and movements of people, and they're basically a police force of the internet. And they found Saddam bin Laden and then shared that information for a fee to the United States government. And then the Navy SEALs went in and killed him and captured all his records. And that was their big claim to fame. And so they went public. I bought them. Their price came down. I bought some more of them. Their price came down further. I bought some more of them. And as I said, I had about $20,000 in them. So as I became aware of some news this last week that they had a bad quarter. Now, that struck me as strange. We're in a time right now when we're in fear of Vladimir Putin. We're in fear of Xi Jinping. We have more fear relative to our national security than we ever have had in most of my life. The only other time I remember that I felt that uneasy was the Cuban Missile Crisis. I was a young kid. No, I was in college then. But before that, it was the threat of the Soviet Union. Nikita Khrushchev would beat his shoe on a stand and say, well, I'm going to bury the United States. We're going to militarily destroy the United States. We're going to put atom bombs. We can send rockets now. And so we as school kids had duck and cover. We got under. Well, the situation is not that bad now, but it's getting close. And yet, Palantir came out and said, we aren't going to have a good quarter this next quarter. Our quarter, this second quarter, didn't meet expectations, and we're gearing down. But this is what they do. They create the software to protect the governments. Their biggest customers are the governments. They pumped their ability and their play in the finding the virus or the vaccine for the coronavirus. And yet we now have monkeypox, and the virus is still going. And they're gearing down and saying the government is becoming difficult to work with. So I went and listened to their second quarter earnings call. And I did that on Seeking Alpha, and I can show you, if you like, where I did it. This is my Seeking Alpha page, Seeking Alpha Premium on Palantir. And right over here it says News. And if you go down here, you look for Palantir's, it says Earnings Call and Transcript. You click on that, and it will take you to the call. And then you click on this, and the call, down here you have a bar, and you can hear Alex explaining his quarter. This is where you go. This is how you use it. Over here, then, if you want to learn more, you click on the stories that have been written. And then if you want to get involved in their financials, you merely go up here and you find their financials, and you can learn anything and everything about Palantir or any company that you're interested in. If you're an investor, this is a must. And so I listened to the 45 minutes of this call, and what I realized was Alex is a problem. He doesn't get along with people. He says in that video, people don't want to work with us. In fact, they work with us and then they walk away from us and they use other people, but they come back eventually. Well, apparently they aren't coming back like they used to. So I sold all of my Palantir. So what does this have to do with you? If you're a new investor, if you're a investor of years, you need to know who you're buying. And I think this became very, very apparent. Last night I watched a movie on Netflix. It's called Steve Jobs. You need to watch it. Steve Jobs was a jerk. He was literally a jerk. His partner who got Apple off the ground, Steve Wozniak, he treated him like a unwanted orphan. He would not recognize the people of Apple II as he went beyond them into Macintosh. He was a total jerk. He would not even recognize the mother of his child or his child that was proven. He even said he had developed an algorithm that said that child could have been given birth by 28% of the men in the United States, so it's not provable that it's mine. This man was an asshole. But when he appeared on the stage and presented his products, he was king of the mountain. He built a tremendous brand. We didn't know that. So I bring that up because although he was a jerk, he was a good marketer of his product. Alex Kelp apparently was not. He says in the call that people don't want to work with us because they don't like us. Well, Alex, why don't they like you? And if they don't like you, your customers don't like you, why should I invest in you? I don't like Spectrum. Spectrum gives me intermediate internet, which means I'm on a Zoom call, I get thrown off. I will do anything I can to get away from Spectrum as I can. That's the same thing that's happening to Palantir. My point is, you need to know that. So, as an investor, new, old, indifferent, you need to find your way to these recorded calls. Don't read the manuscript, because what you want to hear is their voice, and you want to hear their inflection of the voice. When someone asks a question, do they answer the question? Or do they talk around the question like most politicians do and not give a direct answer? Do they actually even interrupt the questionnaire? Watch the Alex video. You'll see why people don't want to work with Alex. You need to do this on every company that you buy. I would ask you, give me a list of all the companies you own. Can you tell me their CEO's name? If you walked into a restaurant and their CEO was there, would you recognize them? If the answer to either of those questions is you don't know their name and you wouldn't recognize them, then you shouldn't own them. You shouldn't. How can you invest in an ETF? How can you invest in a mutual fund that has 500 companies? You know absolutely nothing about those companies. But if I pressed you and said, if you could only invest in companies in your community, would you take the time to meet the owner, the CEO? If it's a restaurant, the chef? Would you eat at the restaurant? Would you understand their business? Would you stand outside on a Friday night and see what kind of traffic they have? Sure you would. Then why wouldn't you do that with your life savings? Okay, this video is directed towards beginners. This is what I want you to do. I want you to find a company that you're interested in, that you have a passion for. I have a passion for biotech and finding a cure for cancer. So I have read every damn book I could find on it so that I understand it. And then I have learned about the individuals who are behind it, the CEOs. I go to Seeking Alpha and I don't read, I hear their interview for their quarterly statements. And I gain an understanding of who, not what company, but whom I'm investing in. Because when I invested initially in Amazon, I invested in Jeff Bezos. When I invested originally in Microsoft, I invested in Bill Gates. And I would still invest in Bill Gates. But I understand who is managing my money and what their motives are. So if you're a new investor and you can rustle up $500, open yourself up a Roth IRA. You have to have earned income, $500, and put it into a Roth IRA. Do that every month. And I would encourage you to in 12 months, find 6 companies, and you become knowledgeable of those 6 companies. And if someone comes to you and says, what companies do you own? You can tell them, what do they do? You can tell them, who is their CEO? You can tell them, what is their profit margin? You can tell them. And if you'll do that, you can't help but make money. It's because it's not what you know that gets you. It's what you don't know that you don't know. And if you're just buying an ETF or a mutual fund, you can't know the CEOs of 500 companies. You can't do it. So don't make that mistake. Invest in what you know. And invest in what you have a passion for. I have a passion for artificial intelligence, machine learning. I read Amy Webb's book, The Big Nine. I understand the power of machine learning. I watch videos that explain to me what our world is going to look like in 5 to 10 years. And I ask myself, who are the companies that are going to do that? Who are the companies that have all the data that artificial intelligence is going to be applicable to? Who is going to benefit from quantum computers? The people with the big data. Who is the CEO of Google? What's he all about? Where did he come from? What's his life about? What is he interested in? And if I know that, and I have an understanding. And then listen to him talk. If you can go to YouTube and see interviews, see how he answers questions. Is he straightforward or is he evasive? Is he a crybaby? That they don't like me and they go away, but they always come back. Do you know that kid from high school? Okay, stay away from him. That's why I sold Palantir. Now, if you'll do what I'm saying, and you're young and you've got $500 every month that you can put into a Roth IRA, you will not get a tax deduction or a tax credit for your contribution into the Roth IRA, but also you won't be taxed on the money that you take out when you're retired. So if you'll do what I'm saying, and if you'll understand the companies that you invest in, and become a true shareholder and understand what they do, how they do it, and then understand the world that you're in. Again, go listen to Alex's talk and him telling you that he's gearing down because the government is not acting as quickly. We are under more threat for national security today than we have been in the last 45 years. And he's telling me the government is gearing back on their policing efforts. We have more mass shootings in the United States right now than we ever have in the world, in history. And he's telling me that policing is cutting back. No, Alex, they don't like you. They don't like your company. They don't like your attitude. They don't like the way you behave. And when you don't like the way the people who provide you goods and services behave, you stop using them. Just like I'm trying to get away from Spectrum. They give me intermittent service. That is not acceptable. I'll give you intermittent payments. And what will you do? You'll cancel me. Well, that's what I'll do too. And yet, Jeff Bezos or whoever, Amazon, if I order something and I don't like it, they take it back. That's the kind of company I want to deal with. That's what you need to look at. You need to be aware of what is the market for the product that the company that you want shares in. What is their product? What is their service? And are they in a growing field? Okay. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, medical care. We're fighting through a broken medical system. Watch what the big companies are buying. They're buying medical. Because this is going to be the revolution that makes the digital revolution look insignificant. Our world of medicine is going to change. Understand that, then go find the companies that are going to make it happen. And understand who their CEOs are, if they're assholes or if they're sweethearts. Okay? Treat it as if it was in your community and know it. Seeking Alpha will give you more than you can consume. If you don't have it, if you aren't using it, go into the description. It was 50%. They've reduced it even more. It's down to about 66% off. So if you aren't doing that, change the way you invest. Know what you invest in. Damn it. Why would you give $10,000 or $600 to something that you don't know, you don't understand, and you don't know who's the shepherd of your funds? All right. That's my rant for the weekend. Alex, I'm sorry. Can't invest in you. Talk to you all again tomorrow.